During the struggle and even before the struggle, I mean, as I've repeatedly said, that as a woman you have to face additional challenges in public life. You are additionally targeted, you are additionally victimized rather than your male counterparts. But BJP, as is it is obsessed with wiping out any opposition. And that is something that they have been doing on the social media as well. On the social media, we face a lot of abuse. A lot of it is, it's not political opposition, it's not criticism, it is not dissent, it is simply abuse. And RSS has these very organized, systematic sort of armies of trolls on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, who post the most vile, the most threatening, the most abusive kind of comments to women. And I wouldn't say that this has really dampened me down, but at some point it used to. Today there is no space for anyone on Twitter to say anything against Narendra Modi. And that is really the kind of game that they have played, and it is organized very much along gendered lines. The abuse that both women and men have to face, it is very gendered in that sense, and this has been pointed out by people before me as well. Of late I have been getting these letters at the student union office, which are which target all aspects of my identity, that I'm a Kashmiri, that I'm a Muslim, that I'm a woman, all of that. Written in the most abusive way, written in the worst kind of English. So these, I don't know if these should be taken seriously, but looking at the attacks on Kanhaiya that have happened repeatedly in the court premises, I would say that it does create an atmosphere of terror, and that is what the government wants after all. See, the Jawaharlal Nehru University has been at the target of the BJP government for a very long time. The current crisis has not arisen because of the specific nature of the program or because of the slogans. That is not really the issue. If you see, there was an Occupy UGC movement for fellowships going on for about 3 months. And during that movement, we were labelled anti-national by the RSS mouthpiece Panjani, which ran a cover story on JNU, saying how JNU is anti-national because it talks about caste, it talks about gender, and many such ridiculous things. And this shows that JNU has been at the target from the very start. JNU has been always known as a sharp voice of criticism against any government. Be it any government, be it the Congress government during the time of emergency, be it the left governments. Their various actions have been criticized in JNU by members of the left. And why would BJP government expect students to be compliant and students to be conformist and not question their policies? That issue, this issue really is at the heart of the JNU current controversy. What is this about? This is an attempt to depoliticize the university. However, the way in which the university has responded to this attack on its very autonomy is quite the opposite of what the government might have expected. The student activism, student politics, we believe, will be the deathbed of RSS's, agenda of hatred and politics of hate, I would say. Well, honestly, we were anticipating this attack ever since the government came to power, but that these attacks would come so soon was not really expected. Sometime back last year, we were holding conventions, we were holding conferences on the issue of saffronization of education, and at that time, no one was ready to believe this. This seemed almost like a conspiracy theory, but it has happened, it has started happening, and yes, we anticipate more attacks, but we are also ready. Yes, really. It was a very unpredictable situation. It was a very hopeless situation, especially when Umar and Anirban were also arrested. After that, the flight of 3 activists from the campus, 3 students from the campus, the constant anxiety that they are in jail and what is happening with them, it was definitely there. And people have their academics. Here study and struggle go hand in hand. but all the people who have been arrested, their studies were also getting affected. And Kanhaiya is back. That is definitely a great sign of relief. Also a vindication of our stand, which we were saying from the start, that there is absolutely no evidence against him. Why have you kept him in for 3 weeks? There was no evidence against him. He had to pay the bail amount. There was no evidence against him. He was beaten up. So, I mean, who is going to make up for all this? I mean, this is something that we have been saying from the start, that there is no evidence against these people. Definitely, there has been such criticism, and I've heard of it. I've not been associated with the left for a very long time. But yes, if these criticisms are there, they have to be taken on board. And all of these fights have to be, all of these struggles have to have a meeting point. We may have differences, we may continue to have differences. I personally, don't believe in identity politics. I mean, as you can see, I do left politics, I don't do identity politics. However, all of the criticisms that come from other progressive movements have to be taken on board. That is my position on that. What has really spurred this unity is the tremendous repression that Modi government has unleashed within the 1.5 years of coming to power. That is really striking. And when Modi used to say that good days will come, achhe din aayenge, we wouldn't believe him. But I think he has fulfilled his promise by getting all of us united. There's so much repression, and everyone is repressed now. No one is spared. Even university teachers, even intellectuals, no one is spared now. Everyone is under attack, and not just the left and the Dalit movement, but the liberal. The attack is on liberalism, and we've all been brought together, and probably these are the good days that he has promised. Definitely after coming to JNU, but also during the 16 December movement, where I was not a JNU student at that time, but definitely observed the shift in narrative. I mean, earlier it was all death penalty and castration of men and protection of women by commando forces and all of that. But later the discourse shifted to freedom for women, freedom from protection, even freedom from male protectionism. That shift in the debate, I was personally very fond of Kavita Krishnan's interventions in that debate, and because I always grappled with this problem of gender, I always grappled with this question of rape and acid attacks, but didn't have a theoretical framework, didn't have a systematic framework to understand all these issues. So that really changed with after my engagement with left politics. So it gives you a framework to understand poverty, to understand injustice, to understand gender, caste, and many other forms of oppressions. So that has really been an enriching experience for me in JNU. Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's already being targeted for his identity, but this has really, exposed the hollow politics of Islamophobia, which some parties try to play. I mean, just because someone has a Muslim name means that they can be put in jail, means that they are automatically they are terrorists, or uh, this is really problematic. And even if you look at the kind of they didn't do anything against me, they didn't put any charges on me or anything. But if you look at what people like Ashok Pandit have been saying, I mean, he occupies supposedly a very responsible position. He's in the CVFC, and he says that Shehla Rashid, because she's a Kashmiri and a Muslim, she should be interrogated. Now, this is the most ridiculous kind of argument that I've ever heard. That just because you're a Kashmiri Muslim, you cannot have a different kind of politics. You are by default a terrorist. You are by default, you are roaming around with an AK-47. This is bizarre, and these are things being said by BJP's people who are holding positions of power, who are holding responsible positions. They are saying this. Then what do you expect from the rest of their cadre base? Well, not really, because over the first 2-3 days that this thing happened, that this whole issue came up, people all, the students from all over the country, students in this university who are from different parts of the country, they started getting calls from their parents saying that why are you conducting these anti-national activities, and that is because of the biased media coverage. But everyone, all parents have been advising their children to stay away from student politics. On the contrary, students have now, come up in such huge numbers, contrary to their parents' advice. And similar is the case for me. Like, my parents were worried sick, and for good reasons, that I might be harmed, they might try to implicate me, and all of that. Um, and they advised me to stay away, and not to come in public, not to speak out openly against the RSS. But I definitely did not heed that advice. And on the contrary, what I told my parents was that people who have been sent to jail, people like Kanaya, people like Umar who have sedition charges on them, people like Rama who have sedition charges on them. As I've maintained the stand from the beginning, I mean, they're all innocent. They've not done anything to attract these charges. They have not done anything to quote sedition. So, even if I don't do anything and they want to frame me, they can frame me. I mean, these people also didn't do anything. They are also someone's sons and daughters. And I think that was the point with which I finally could, sort of convince them. If not convince, at least put my point. For more.